The zombie movie that came out in 2025 was not just fast-paced, the zombies in it were extremely fast. It was said they could even catch a flying plane within minutes. Some zombies were also shown to be a bit smarter. People believed these zombies could hear from thousands of miles away to find their enemies and could even destroy strong human-built forts. After giving a short introduction, the movie was said to begin without any delay. Little boy was watching cartoons at home when suddenly the TV signal stopped. Instead of the cartoon, a serious news report appeared. It said that a strange virus had spread all over the world. People who caught the virus were turning into scary zombies within minutes. The virus was spreading very fast, and many cities had already been destroyed. As the boy was watching the news with full attention, he suddenly heard a noise from the room upstairs. He got scared and went to check, but when he reached there, he found out that it was just a prank by his elder sister. Soon after, their father made a video call. He was away on duty and told his wife and children to leave the city immediately and go stay with their relatives. The virus had reached their city too. During the call, the little girl Abai smiled and showed her father a lucky bracelet she had made for him. Meanwhile, their mother had packed everything quickly. They could hear people screaming outside, so she didn't waste any time and left the house with her 2 kids. But just as they were about to get into the car, a zombie grabbed the mother. Abai quickly hid under the car and, from there, saw her younger brother get killed by the zombie. She was shaking with fear. Then she saw her mother, now turned into a zombie too, slowly walking toward her. At that moment, someone fired bullets, and a man arrived just in time to save Abai. Like an angel. Later, that man gently told Abai to cover her ears. Then, with a heavy heart, he shot her younger brother, who had also turned into a zombie. 10 years had passed since the zombie virus had destroyed the world. Human civilization no longer existed. Once beautiful cities had now turned into ruins. The little girl Abai had grown up, and Uncle Cassius had trained her to survive like a warrior in the jungle. After spending so many years in the wild, Abai deeply wished to find people again. Her biggest dream was to discover a human settlement where she could live a normal life. But for Cassius, the safest place was a deserted island far away from the infected land. One night, Cassius was woken by the sound of an alarm. He quietly stepped out of his tent and saw a zombie attacking from the darkness. Cassius quickly shot and killed it, but both he and Abai felt worried because zombies often came in groups, which meant more danger could be nearby. Without wasting time, they packed their things before sunrise and got ready to leave. Just then, their horses started acting restless, which Cassius knew was a sign that danger was close. When they looked around, they saw a jeep surrounded by zombies. Cassius didn't want to get involved at first, but Abai fired a shot without asking. So Cassius was forced to kill the rest of the zombies too. When they finally approached the jeep, they began collecting useful items from it. Cassius even took the shoes off a dead man. But the moment he wore them, a voice came through a walkie-talkie inside the car. That's when they realized the people in the jeep were not alone. More survivors were out there. Cassius wanted to leave the area immediately, but before he could move, several SUVs came speeding toward them. Armed people jumped out and surrounded Cassius and Abai. Some of them noticed the shoes Cassius had taken from the dead man and assumed that he had killed one of their companions. Tension quickly rose between both sides. Just when it looked like a fight might break out, a pregnant woman stepped out of one of the vehicles. She calmly told her people to leave Cassius and Abai alone. But before anyone could relax, Cassius's black horse gave a warning signal. The next moment, strange sounds came from deep within the forest. Many zombies were running toward them, closing in from all sides of the valley. There was no time to escape, so the group took out their weapons and prepared to fight. Among the zombies, one woman seemed different. She still had some thinking ability and was watching the battle carefully while the others attacked. The people had nowhere to hide, and many of them were killed quickly. A strong man in the group got bitten by a zombie. Knowing what would happen, he tried to shoot himself, but his bullets had run out. At that moment, Abai acted fast. She grabbed the pregnant woman and helped her into a jeep to protect her. Meanwhile, Cassius kept fighting bravely and finally managed to kill the smart zombie woman. Cassius drove the jeep as fast as he could and managed to escape from the crowd of zombies. Meanwhile, a black-faced zombie reached the dead body of the smart zombie woman. He looked at her and trembled, as if she had been his wife. On the other side, Cassius protected the pregnant woman and her husband from another zombie attack. When he asked them where they were headed, they said they were trying to reach a safe place called Ship Town. Hearing this, Abai became very excited. It was the place she had always dreamed of finding. After deciding the direction, Cassius prepared to drive again, but the car suddenly broke down on the road. The pregnant woman's husband got out, introduced himself as David, and said he was a mechanic. But he also explained that without spare parts, there was no way to fix the jeep. With no other choice, Cassius and the group decided to continue on foot. They followed a path through the mountains and soon arrived at the city where Abai had been born. The tall building still stood, but the entire area was silent, like the peace of death. Cassius found an open building and checked the surroundings. After making sure there was no danger, the group settled there for the night. They lit a fire and cooked food to regain their strength. Abai couldn't stop talking about Ship Town. Her hope was stronger than ever. The pregnant woman had already contacted Ship Town through the wireless radio, so they knew someone was listening on the other side. As the name suggested, Ship Town was made from many large ships. Since it wasn't connected to the land, it was considered very safe. There was plenty of food and water, making it a dream place for the few people who had survived. When Abai heard all this, her eyes lit up with hope and excitement. But Cassius didn't seem interested at all. He believed he didn't have time for comfort. He wanted to continue setting up warning signs and explosive traps to protect others. Once everything was set up, Cassius explained his next plan. He said he would take Megan and David a little farther on their journey, but but after that they would have to part ways. His destination was a port in the opposite direction. This made Abai very upset. Quietly, she went to Cassius and started arguing with him. She didn't understand why he refused to go with them to Ship Town. Cassius spoke calmly and wisely. He said that where there are more people, there is often more danger. But Abai couldn't understand his fear. She had never seen how cruel humans could be. She kept arguing, trying to convince him, but Cassius stayed firm. Feeling sad and angry, Abai went up alone to sleep for the night. What neither of them knew was that the black-faced zombie had picked up their scent. It had found their abandoned jeep and was now slowly tracking them down. T seemed like the black-faced zombie, the leader of the zombies, had made up his mind to face Cassius directly. The next morning, Abai was looking at some old pictures from her childhood when she suddenly heard a rustling sound coming from the trees below. She quickly realized that zombies had entered the area. She rushed to go downstairs and warn the others, but on the way, she was blocked by zombies. Abai reacted fast and managed to trick one of the zombies chasing her. But in doing so, she lost her balance and nearly fell. At that moment, Cassius appeared and saved her once again, just in time. Soon after, the black-faced zombie arrived with more of his group, but they accidentally stepped into the traps Cassius had already set up. The explosions rang out through the forest. Cassius immediately understood from the sound that the zombie gang was specifically after him. Just then, Abai remembered something important. There was a small airport not too far away. Her father used to take her there when she was a child. She thought that if any planes were still left there, it could save them days of walking. Cassius didn't think there was much hope, but when Abai insisted again and again, he finally agreed to go check it out. After walking for a while, the group finally reached the small airport that Abai had spoken about. But when they arrived, everyone felt disappointed. The entire place was empty. Not a single aircraft was in sight. Still, Abai didn't give up. She remembered that her father had once bought a private hangar. It had been built like a small, hidden fort. She found the old door and opened it using the method her father had taught her years ago. And inside, just as she had hoped, stood her father's small aircraft. Abai smiled with joy. She had finally proved herself right in front of Cassius. The aircraft hadn't been used in many years, so David, the mechanic, said it needed repairs. While he worked, Cassius and Abai went to a tall building nearby to stand guard. They hadn't even fully settled in when they spotted a large group of zombies rushing toward the airport. Cassius ran back quickly and warned Megan and David that they had to take off in 3 minutes, even if the aircraft wasn't fully repaired. Abai saw the zombies closing in and stopped thinking. She used her faint memories of flying with her father and worked fast to start the aircraft. She managed to turn it on, but by then, dozens of zombies had reached the runway. They were fast, like professional runners, and just seconds away from reaching them. Cassius shot a nearby zombie to protect the plane. That moment helped Abai focus, and she finally understood the controls and lifted the aircraft into the air. Down on the ground, the black-faced zombie chief stared up at them with many emotions in his eyes: rage, sadness, and something more. Inside the aircraft, everyone cheered with relief. They were finally on their way to Ship Town, but their happiness didn't last long. Smoke suddenly started coming out from the back of the plane, and then the aircraft began to fall. Luckily, they weren't too high up. The plane hit the ground several times and slowed down before the final crash. All 4 of them only had small injuries, but the aircraft was badly damaged and could no longer be used. They would have to continue their journey on foot. While walking through the forest, the group reached an old, deserted railway station. There were no zombies in sight. After checking the area, Cassius decided it was safe enough to spend the night there. They were now on the side of the mountain opposite to the port and Ship Town. All 4 of them planned to continue walking together for a while longer. Later that night, David stepped away quietly into one of the station's empty storage boxes. He pulled up his pant leg and looked at a terrible wound, a zombie bite. It had happened a few days earlier, and David knew what it meant. He was slowly turning into one of them. For a moment, he thought about ending his life, even held his gun, but then he remembered his pregnant wife and couldn't go through with it. The next morning, Cassius noticed something strange about David. When he got the chance, he quickly pulled up David's pant leg and saw the zombie bite. Cassius understood the truth. He thought of shooting David right then, but before he could act, Abai called from up ahead, telling everyone to hurry. Cassius stayed quiet for now, but knew what he had to do, so they kept walking. It started to get dark. Suddenly, they saw a farmhouse in the distance. Cassius quietly pulled out his gun and approached carefully, but as he neared the door, a warning alarm went off from a speaker near the gate. That meant someone was inside. Abai stepped forward calmly and said they had no bad intentions. When the house owner heard she was traveling with a pregnant woman, his doubts faded. He collected all their weapons for safety and then kindly invited everyone inside. The man had created a clever survival system: solar power, clean rainwater, and everything they needed to stay safe. Abai was finally able to enjoy a hot bath. They had a proper dinner after many hard days. Cassius took the chance to charge his old laptop. He looked at pictures of his past life, photos with his wife, including one of her during pregnancy. Those memories touched something in his heart. Later, he went to Megan and told her he had changed his mind. He would take her safely to Ship Town first and then go searching for the port with Abai. After dinner, the house owner brought out liquor for everyone. For the first time in a long while, they all sat together and talked like normal people. But as the conversation went on, something felt strange. The man started saying odd things. He believed zombies were the next stage of human evolution. He claimed they were nature's best hunters, and just as humans had once hunted animals out of greed, now it was the zombies' turn to rule the earth. Everyone fell silent, shocked by his words. David started feeling even sicker, so he went to the bathroom. By now, the zombie virus had fully spread inside his body. When he came back to the hall, he saw something shocking. Cassius, Megan, and Abai were all unconscious on the floor. Before he could react, the house owner pressed a button button on a device he held. David suddenly felt very weak and collapsed to the ground. When he woke up again, he realized something terrible. Not only had the virus taken over his body completely, but his friends had also been infected. It turned out the house owner had secretly mixed sleeping medicine into the liquor. He wasn't just an old survivor, he was actually a scientist. After years of research, he had created a device that could control zombies using low-frequency signals. Cassius, Abai, and the others were nothing but test subjects for his twisted experiments. The scientist showed them a cage in the back of the house. Inside it was his wife, a zombie. He turned on his device, and the controlled zombie immediately attacked Cassius. But before it could hurt him, David used the strength from the virus inside him to break free from his ropes. Somehow, he resisted the control of the device and saved Cassius and the others. Seeing his plan fail, the scientist panicked and tried to escape. But his eyes suddenly went blind, and he ran off into the night, lost and terrified. Cassius didn't want to stay in that place another second. He found a car outside and quickly took everyone deep into the forest. But the scientist wasn't finished. Using his strange device, he called a large group of zombies to follow them. Cassius drove faster and faster, but the road ahead was blocked. They had no choice but to get out and run. David, knowing his time was almost over, made a brave decision. He said goodbye to his wife and stayed behind to face the zombies. David charged into the zombie horde, slowing them down for a while. This gave Cassius just enough time to grab Megan and keep fighting their way back, but the zombies kept coming. Just as they were about to be surrounded, a loud human whistle rang through the trees. Abai immediately recognized it. This was the call of the guards from Ship Town. Armed soldiers appeared from behind the trees and opened fire. The zombies dropped one by one. Cassius, Megan, and Abai were finally safe. The black-faced zombie stopped his followers from going any further. A body of water blocked the way, and the zombies couldn't cross it. Meanwhile, Cassius and the others traveled by boat and finally reached the center of Ship Town. Megan was close to giving birth and needed medical help right away. Thankfully, there was a hospital and a doctor in the camp. The next morning, Cassius and Abai looked around and saw the entire view of Ship Town. It was built far above the water, a massive platform created by connecting several large ships. It was safe, well-organized, and full of life. Cassius was soon introduced to the camp's leader. The man welcomed him and invited both of them to stay, but he explained that there were rules everyone had to follow. Without saying much, Cassius turned and walked away. He didn't want to live by anyone else's rules. To him, staying on a deserted island still seemed like the better option, but Abai had made up her mind. She wanted to stay. For the first time in her life, she felt surrounded by people, dancing, laughing, living like a community. She finally felt human again. This caused a big argument between her and Cassius. Just then, the doctor arrived and shared heavy news. Megan had given birth to a baby girl, but due to too much blood loss, she might not survive. Cassius rushed to the hospital room. Megan was weak but calm. She asked Cassius to take her baby and raise her, to give her a life like Abe's. Cassius thought of his late wife, and after a moment of silence, he accepted. He knew this child was now his responsibility. While Cassius was dealing with the newborn, Abai was having fun around the camp with a handsome boy she had just met. It was her first time laughing freely, dancing to music, and watching people enjoy life together. This joy made her even more certain that she wanted to stay in Ship Town. Later that night, after the fun, Abai saw the boy sneaking into a locked cabin. Curious, she followed him. Inside, she found the room filled with blinking lights, bombs, and a star map. A glowing wireless switch sat in the middle. The boy came back quickly and confessed everything. He told Abai that bombs had been secretly planted beneath Ship Town. If the camp was ever attacked, people would escape through a hidden path, and the entire platform would be blown up to keep the zombies from getting in. Neither of them knew that this worst-case day was about to come, much sooner than anyone expected. Far away, the mad scientist was still filled with rage. He used his mind control device to strike a deal with the black-faced zombie king. Together, they launched an attack. The scientist disabled Ship Town's natural water defenses, letting zombies use ships and water routes to break into the camp. Zombies swarmed the city. Many innocent people were caught off guard and were killed instantly. Others, with nowhere to run or hide, were eaten alive. Cassius, carrying the newborn in one arm and a weapon in the other, ran through the chaos. But his mind was only on Abai. Ignoring the crowd, he pushed through the infected, fighting back as he searched for her. Finally, he found her on the main deck, fighting for her life. In a moment of distraction, she was hit by a zombie and fell to the floor. And then, out of the shadows, the scientist appeared, his face full of hatred. The final confrontation had begun. Finally, Cassius got a chance to take revenge. But he didn't give up or hesitate. He quickly grabbed the scientist's hand and hit him hard. The control device the scientist was holding broke instantly, and because of that, he lost control over the zombie. Soon, the poor old scientist was attacked and killed by the same zombie he had once controlled. Luckily, there was already an escape route in the camp. Many survivors used the tunnel and crossed to the other side of the river. Just when they were about to press the button to trigger the bomb, a young man told everyone to wait because Abai was still on the ship. While running, Cassius managed to stab the zombie king with a knife. At that moment, Abai noticed something strange, a bracelet on the zombie's wrist. It looked exactly like the one she had made for her father. But before she could think more, Cassius pulled her forcefully into the tunnel. The young man saw them escaping and pressed the remote control. The ship exploded into a huge fireball. However, the danger wasn't over. The camp leader suddenly grabbed his his neck. He had been bitten by a zombie during the fight. Before the virus could spread, the black-faced zombie attacked him. Surprisingly, the zombie king had survived the explosion. Cassius quickly ran forward to fight him. Abai found a gun lying on the ground. When she looked closely, she realized that the zombie king in front of her was actually her father. But he was trying to kill Cassius, who had protected her all this time. So, after a moment of deep thought, Abai made a painful decision and shot the zombie king. She knew he was no longer her real father. In the end, Cassius and the other survivors looked at a quiet island far across the sea. They decided to start a new human settlement there. It was also revealed that the woman Cassius had killed earlier was actually AB's mother. The story was full of unexpected twists and coincidences.